Hello everyone, my name is Emily Tamayo. I'm currently a junior at UF, and this is going to be my video on how I've experienced race throughout my lifetime. And I'm going to be focusing more on how I've experienced race since I moved to the United States. Everyone is affected by race-related issues either directly or indirectly at least once in their lifetime. Some of the so-called races are more prone to stigma than others, and that does not only affect individuals, but it also affects societies in many ways. I'm Hispanic and proud to be one. I was born in Ecuador and moved to Florida when I was 14 years old. I already spoke some English when I moved here, so I pretty much honed it here, learning how to use it in a more daily setting rather than in a classroom only. As you can hear, I still have a slight accent that is actually a bit thicker right now because I have been in Ecuador for more than a month visiting my family. So I only talk to my brother in English here and everyone else speaks Spanish, so I got a bit less practice of my English. This happens to me every time I come back to visit, and it's normal. Accents are the first thing I will talk about in my path through being Hispanic in the US. It is 100% normal to have an accent when you are speaking another language. It is nothing bad. But at first, I tried to hide my accent. I did not like that and wanted it to sound more American. I actually practiced in trying to make it sound as American as possible. Often, when people mention it, they said it was pretty. Other times they said it sounded very strong or that I spoke too fast, which is actually true because Spanish is a very fast language and that's how I am accustomed to speak. I've actually been working to speak English a bit more pronounced and slower than what my Spanish is like, but that is in order to be understood more, not because I want to fit in and not be criticized. I felt embarrassed of my accent, but later I realized it was not a bad thing. Actually, it is one more thing that makes me different and unique. Now I embrace and love my accent. Now let's talk stereotypes. And there are a lot of stereotypes regarding Hispanic people and Hispanic females. The most common one is that if you're Hispanic, you're either from Mexico, Puerto Rico, Cuba, and sometimes Colombia. It's like people don't even acknowledge the existence of other countries that speak Spanish, which is curious. I have actually had the same experience with three different people. When they asked me where I was from and I answered that I was from Ecuador, they asked me if that was part of Africa. It is not their fault that the school system is more focused on learning about this country than general geography, which is a fact. But it shows how little knowledge there is about other cultures and places. Another very common stereotype is that we like spicy food. Like, all of us, and that's definitely a no. I actually cannot stand spicy food. Same stereotype actually goes with Indian people. The fact that a country is known for a type of food doesn't mean that everyone likes it or everyone is that way. It's just part of the culture that identifies a culture, but not necessarily something that has to be there. This I know because I worked in an Indian restaurant for about 6 months, and I was the only non-Indian worker. Everyone would assume that I was Indian, and sometimes even Indian customers would talk to me and order from the menu in Hindi. Sometimes I understood because I learned some Hindi keywords and phrases that regarded to food, but other times I would just stand there and be like, I'm sorry, but I don't speak that language. I'm actually Hispanic. Some of them actually got mad when they found out that I wasn't Indian and didn't like being served by me. They asked to be served by the Indian servers at the restaurant. And again, stereotyping everyone of a country or a culture with a stereotype that is currently known, it's not evil, it's more of ignorance. And again, stereotyping people of a culture or a country or an area with a stereotype that is very commonly known, it's not something evil, it's not something bad that people are doing intentionally. It's more like ignorance, of course, because it would be nice if people put stereotypes aside when meeting someone from a different culture, but it's just something humans do. This next one is a bit more insulting for us, especially for females of Hispanic origin. I noticed there is this common stereotype about Hispanic females that says that we're easy or slutty. Sorry for the word. I've actually had guys assume that I was that just for being Hispanic, and whenever I said no to their proposals, because I just wasn't interested in them, they would say something in the lines about, but you're Hispanic, you girls are not that boring. And that's also something that definitely bothers me. Someone's sexuality is not directly related to their culture. There are cultural things that somehow shape the way a human experiences sexuality, but that does not mean everyone is the same way. And sexuality is something very personal, so you can't just assume that someone likes something or wants something because you've met someone else of the same type that likes it or wants it, or it's just a common belief that she does. I can say I'm very lucky to not have had any encounters of this type in which physical violence against me for being Hispanic has been shown. Like we hear in the news and social media, and I've seen it, and it's really, really worrying. But still, I've had different treatment for talking Spanish to my mom at Publix, at the doctor, in malls, and it's just unjustified. Your language, your culture, and where you come from does not mean that you're gonna be a certain way. There is bad people and good people everywhere. There is bad people in America and good people in America, and it's the same thing with every single country there is. You cannot just stereotype for something that the media is saying, for something that a governor or president is saying. And actually, if you are on the public eye, you have to be more careful what you say in the way you say things, because that does not mean that you cannot share your opinion, but you have to be careful in the way you do it. Especially today with social media, you can reach thousands and millions of people at the same time. And not everyone is going to understand the things that you're saying in the way that you want it. The influence some people have on others cannot be taken for granted. Today we live in a society where we should be working towards equality of races and wages and genders, and it's not something that has been actively done by so many people. Some people take it for granted because they do not live through it. And the ones who are living through it sometimes do not have enough power of voice to be able to ask for the equality they deserve. And that is why we all have to be aware of the differences that makes us equal and that makes us different, but in good ways. We all are brothers and sisters, not necessarily looking in the same way, but we definitely have to work because this is all our planet. We're all living here. This is our society and our country, and everyone's part of it. So if you want to be part of a country that's a good country, you have to make it be good. Thank you.